Daily Detroit is brought to you by the community. Support our work at patreon.com/dailydetroit.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Daily Detroit. It is Thursday, June 26th, 2025. I'm Jer Stays, coming to you from our studio at Techtown in the Paris of the Midwest, Detroit, Michigan. Joining me to discuss an interesting topic is none other than the Prince of Brightmoor himself, Norris Howard. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Always great to be in the studio.
Yes. So today's topic is a little different.
Yeah.
We're spreading our wings a little bit. I'm interested to hear your feedback, dailydetroit@gmail.com. And the question that I'm going to ask that we will debate today is, does Zohran Mamdani's win mean anything for Detroit's mayoral matchup? And are there things that our local candidates could learn from it? Or are there things that need to be left on the table? This is an earthquake of a win in politics in America's biggest city. Of course, there are a few things that are similar to New York and Detroit, and then there's a lot of things that are not similar in any way, shape, or form. But it is a big move because I want to discuss this, since the thing that got me about this whole race, Norris Howard, and why I want to bring it up, I love this much energy for local stuff.
Me too.
I don't care if you agree with them or not. I love this level of local debate. I love the idea of a dude walking from one end to the other end of the city, meeting people. I love in the street politics. I love the passion for municipal stuff, because I know in America, when you focus on local and you do local first, amazing things can happen. You can affect people's lives every day. And just getting the messaging from this from afar, it was invigorating, even though there are things that I don't even agree with all the policies, obviously. I loved the vibes and the interest.
Yeah, I think, just starting off for the first thing is does it affect anything happening in Detroit? And I think it does. Because I think, number one, this is a potential watershed moment for the Democratic establishment in America, particularly at the local and state level, right? I think the fact that you had Cuomo, who was his Mamdani's primary opponent, had millions and millions of dollars pumped
Bloomberg dollars, which we know very well here in Detroit, as his organizations have put a lot of money into Detroit.
Yeah, pumped huge amounts of money into his campaign, had major endorsements from people like Bill Clinton and Clyburn in the U.S. House. Everything was set up for this to be another slam dunk win for the Democratic establishment. But instead, what ended up happening was a massive turnout from young people, from disenchanted voters, from a coalition of various ethnic and religious groups to support Mamdani and to support what he was talking about, in a wholesale rejection of the establishment. And I think that in and of itself is something that everyone in the entire country should be paying attention to.
For me, you mentioned those younger voters. There is a huge apathy gap in the city of Detroit. We saw some of it at the debate we hosted, but also the polling shows out. Older people, usually seniors, are the ones who are voting in municipal elections. Oftentimes I hear from listeners, from activists, where are the young people? In Detroit.
And that's the thing that I always say when it comes to local and state level politics, is that people are asking this question but are unwilling to do the thing that gives them the answer. Where are the young people on TikTok? Where are the young people on Threads, on Instagram? They're on Snapchat. They are online. They are on social media. And Mamdani was able to leverage social media in a way that was unlike many other candidates that we've seen in recent times. Usually the playbook is you go and get a social media manager, you put out your planned out comms, and you talk about the issues that are important, or you go to the little restaurant or whatever, and that is your social media strategy or platform for your campaign. What Mamdani was able to do is do what actually a lot of people are great at in New York that I think we should absolutely start doing here in Detroit, which is all he did was just start complaining about the stuff that he hated in his city.
Carts.
The halal carts.
That was brilliant.
That
if you don't, okay, let's set the table because not everyone's going to know what a halal cart is.
So the halal carts are basically when you're in New York and you see those little sort of food carts next to attractions. You'll see them in Times Square. You'll see them next to the Met. You'll see them in Central Park. You'll see them, these just little carts of like Indian and Arab dudes just like selling street meats and biryani rice and stuff like that. And his lament was, how is it that halal costs $10 now? Like in his mind, that was an affront to everything.
It'd be like a $10 coney.
Yeah, it was an affront to everything that being a New Yorker meant to him. And it resonated so well because that is something that New Yorkers interface with every day. And it's like, that's what you got to key into. And so when I look at candidates here in Detroit, I think we have certain candidates who are very polished. We got certain candidates who have years and years of experience in local government and state level government. We have people who have tried to be in politics in different capacities over the past 10, 15, 20 years. What we don't have is a person who is just willing to go to like the random broke down liquor store in the neighborhood that they grew up in and be like, I remember shopping at this liquor store and it's gone and it's been gone for 15 years. And if you vote for me for mayor, I want to bring this store back. Like, that's the kind of stuff people want to see.
This was my school. I want to give it life again.
I want to open it.
Whether it's a school, whether it's apartments, whether it's something, I don't want yet another empty lot where my memories were.
Exactly. And that is what I've yet to see from any of the candidates. Listen, every school, and I'm not going to say every school, my high school is still open, but the schoolhouse I attended to is vacant. The elementary and kindergarten and middle school I went to is closed and vacant. Like, those are things, those are memories now that I will not be able to share with, you know, my younger siblings or my children if I have them or whatever. I won't be able to share that with them. And so having a candidate that would have been able to speak to something like that to me would have been incredible. And it would have completely pulled on my heartstrings. And that's the stuff that gets people to move, gets people to come out because they want a city that they can pass those memories along.
I don't know why there isn't a candidate that doesn't say, I want buses that are fast and frequent. I think about if they just doubled the number of buses in my neighborhood, it'd be a whole lot better, right? Where is the direct? I would like to see more direct clarity around the messaging. That's another thing that Mamdani did really well. Was not couched in political speak. It was not couched in press releases. It's buses fast and free.
There we go.
A city you can afford. Like, these are clear declarative statements. And look, I think we all know he's not going to be able to do all of it.
No.
We all know that.
But everybody knows that. But the thing is that if you're, the thing about politics is that if you come in and you're able to even achieve a fraction of what you promised in your campaign, chances are to the people who voted for you, you've made their lives better in their view. And for somebody like Mamdani, you know, another big claim that he made is talking about a rent freeze. Everybody talks about affordable housing, the ability.
Let's set the table again because we don't have this as much here in Detroit.
Right, we don't. So basically, rent controlling the vast majority of apartments in Manhattan. So not allowing landlords to raise the price of rent at their whim.
I think there's a couple of million apartments like this.
There's like a couple million apartments where, you know, if the landlord decides they want to raise the rent, they could just raise the rent. And there's really, obviously it's a lot more complicated. We're not fully versed in like New York level city politics, but
the affordable crisis is huge there. I mean, I know people who have a 2-bedroom that are paying like $5,000 a month.
Exactly. Like for us, those numbers, that's like untenable. Like we literally would scream in horror at New York prices, right? But we have an affordability crisis here because the average income is so low. But if we had somebody that came in that said and had the ability to be able to deliver on something like, hey, you vote for me for mayor, we're going to provide X number of dollars for home buyers, not just first time home buyers, full stop, period. You want to buy a house in the city of Detroit, the city will help
Bucks
you.
to come back to Detroit.
Bucks to come back to Detroit. You renting? Cool. We gonna work with the apartment and owners on that one. But we want to fill these. We heard that refrain constantly in the debate over the weekend, is that they want to emphasize, all the candidates want to emphasize single family homes. Okay, so with what mechanism can we help people move into those single family homes? And don't get caught up in, like you said, political speak or talking about these bills and these initiatives. No, you move to the city of Detroit, you getting X amount of dollars. Flat out. That's what you're getting.
Another side of this, though, is that if you want to reach those younger voters, you have to talk about things that they want, that the establishment might not want. And if there's any city that's got a lot of establishment, whether it's business or the churches, or you name it, it's Detroit. We've got a lot of establishment, and a lot of young people don't rock with that.
A lot of young people don't rock with any of these establishments, which is why I think, this sort of mystery, miracle candidate that we're talking about, I don't think really would have the airspace to do it in this cycle. But I think if somebody were to come along, 4 or 5 years from now,
or city council, you could do it on a smaller scale,
or city council or something like that, would have the ability to do so, because quite frankly, a lot of people have lost trust in the institutions, whether it be they've lost trust in the mayor's office because of the difference between the neighborhood development and the downtown development, whether they've lost trust in the church, which is something that a lot of people have lost trust in because of various social issues, or whether they've lost trust in the institution of things like the police or DTE. Like, there's a lot of establishments here people have lost faith in, but to bring those young voters back, you got to start talking about the things they care about. And one of the big things is, hey man, I don't listen to none of those people. I'm here to help you.
Yeah. Jobs for you.
You.
Opportunities for you. I'm going to say something that might be unpopular.
Okay.
I think there's a through line between Donald Trump, Mike Duggan, and Zohran Mamdani.
Hit me with it.
Clear messaging. You know who they are. They stand on their business. You may not agree with it. They stand on it, and you know who they are, and then you respect it. And I think that is a huge shift in politics that the establishment of the Republican Party had trouble with. And now the establishment of the Democratic Party, it's that same sort of moment where you have a turn here, and establishment Democrats are trying like hell to hold on to things. And they're going to lose it because people are mad. And the Democratic brand is trash.
Yeah, right now. Yeah, for sure. And not only is that communication clear, he stood on all the business he could stand on. He was willing to take the hit. And he was willing to take the hits. Listen, it was already a political risk to be a Muslim man to run for mayor in the largest city in America.
And the largest Jewish population city in the world.
So, you're already talking about a guy who was going to have an uphill battle, but he was able to communicate through those differences and through that because he didn't apologize for them. Now, he didn't insult people like others. He didn't lean on xenophobia like others. What he did was say, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. And if you stand for the same things that I do, I'm who you should be voting for.
And one of the magics of ranked choice voting was the ability to cross-endorse, and things like working with, I believe his name was Lander, who is an active Jewish voice in the political community, and cross-endorsing. Yep. I mean, I think that was really powerful for some to say, because there's always going to be people who fear him.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. That's just going to be the case, right? This was a mayoral debate where international politics plays in. You won't see that as much.
But because it's
Detroit.
New York, yeah.
But it's because it's New York, you're going to see that. But making allies that matter and that are visible was another strong move that I think is something that's smart to do here.
Yeah, not only is it smart to do, I think it's going to be something that has to be done in the future. Listen, we know that there's going to be a larger business community for the near future in the city of Detroit, much more than there's been in the past 15, 20 years. And so somebody who is able to effectively communicate the needs and wants of the business community, while at the same time having those conversations with those who are on the ground floor, talking to the community action groups, talking to the sort of community policing groups, talking to the even smaller business owners, talking to the church groups. That's a lot of different people you got to talk to. So having those alliances is going to be critical. But I also want to kind of go back to a little bit of the first part, talking about the young people. Well, another thing Mamdani was able to do, and another thing that people are discovering about him is sort of unapologetic millennialness to him. Like he's a guy who likes to eat certain food. He loves wrestling. Like he goes to wrestling things.
He has a rap name. What was his, Cardamom?
Yeah, he's got a rap name. Like these are things.
Well, Norris Howard has a rap name.
I'm not telling you that. The thing is that this is stuff that if you're a person of a certain age, you will immediately connect with, and that is going to endear you to him and his value set. And I think as we're starting to see, these Cold War era guys still want to do Cold War era shit. They still want to go and, bomb places, and they still want to have political subterfuge, and they still want to do these things that are from an era that the vast majority of the voting populace they're just not there, right? But Mamdani is a guy who's sitting around telling you, like, dude, my experience was your experience. The way I grew up in New York is the way you grew up in New York. And I think for the city of Detroit, we don't quite have that person yet. I think what we have is people who have been tied into the political machine. I think we have people who are, like I said, very polished and very able to sort of speak to the political needs of the city of Detroit, but very few people, maybe only one, who has just the straight up, just common touch to be able to go drop down in any neighborhood in the city and be completely verified, completely accepted, and completely loved.
And the key is about 2025 is you have to show it.
Yep.
And I know that I find some difficulty with this myself because I am somebody who, I believe, when you do works, if you want praise on earth, you won't get praise in heaven. That's kind of like book belief that I have. You can look it up in the good book.
Yeah.
But like I have to adjust to that myself because it is a different era. Why don't we talk about one area where the city is very different than New York, in that honestly it is not as progressive as and so you would need a different mix. We've talked a lot about style, but as far as policy, you might need a different mix here.
I think you would need a different mix, but to me personally, I think when you look at the polling and you look at the numbers, most people really support a lot of progressive stuff. You're talking about exploration of reparations. You're talking about universal health care. You're talking about effective community policing. You're talking about, these are all things that are in the grand scheme incredibly progressive, absurdly progressive. But no one has been able to effectively communicate those things outside of a handful of people. Your Bernie Sanderses, your AOCs, people like that, right? I think in the city of Detroit, if you were able to plop down and to be able to go to Mac and Bewick and talk to like 5 dudes who just live over that way and just be like, bro, have you got seriously sick in the past couple years? Oh yeah, man, I had to get knee surgery, man. Oh, how much you paying for that? Man, if I ain't had health care from my mom's job, I don't know. Like those kinds of conversations, right? People will latch on to those. And then there's going to be people, man, I ain't been to the doctor in about 6-7 years, bro. I don't even know. Like, how is that a reality, right? So I think if you're able to effectively communicate some of those things, the progressive sort of ideals, I think, would be able to come to the fore. But because the electorate is simply just more moderate, I just think the messaging would have to be a little bit different.
I have found in general that fully progressive messaging does not always resonate in the city for a variety of reasons. And I think in part it's because of the messenger. You need to do things like respect the church.
Yes.
Right? You can't be a progressive and then go there and be like, well, the church has no role. You have to be a progressive who's willing to go on Sunday.
Absolutely.
Or you have to be a progressive who understands the importance of, auto workers and what that is,
and manufacturing.
Manufacturing. It's a more complicated picture than it is in some areas. And, we have a lot more poverty here.
Absolutely.
We have a lot more poverty, a lot more people who really need an opportunity. And we don't have as many, yes, there's the whole downtown versus neighborhoods thing. And we've explored that a bazillion times, but there's nowhere near the wealth that is in New York.
No,
it's not even enough. Like if Detroit were a functioning city, there'd be 10 Dan Gilberts.
Yeah, and you know, beyond that, I think that's going to be the number one thing for whatever mayor comes in the future of this recent cycle, and whatever mayor comes even after them, is the poverty in the city, and how do you combat that? And I think one of the ways you begin to combat that is through more home ownership, is through more development of small and medium-sized businesses and attracting those businesses to the city. And, you know, working hand in hand with the school district in order to improve the schools in the city. Those are going to be the three primary issues you're going to have to tackle in the city of Detroit. And I think there's still ways to do that in a progressive way, in a way that's equitable. And to be honest, we definitely got to say a big elephant when it comes to Detroit versus a place like New York is transit. Is the ability for people to literally move around the city. And everybody knows on this time.
Not just fast and free, but can you find them?
Can you find them? Will they show up? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's that level of stuff. And then also having a future plan. Are we expanding bus rapid transit? Are we thinking about street level rail? Are we thinking about elevated rail? What are we thinking about for the next 25 to 50 years can be the future of Detroit? That's how we got to be thinking here. And I just feel like what we saw in New York can begin to be sort of a blueprint for certain people who are looking to run for public office in the near future. And if that's the case, then I think we may be in for more Mamdanis across the nation.
I'll end it on a piece of feedback I got from a neighbor of mine that I heard up at Mackinac, was that this election feels kind of rizzless.
That's a good word. That's a good word. Yeah.
Where
rizzless.
Yeah, where there isn't as much of the juice.
No. And
if you want young people to be involved, you got to have the juice. And if you want to get past that apathy gap that, you know, we've had Chase Cantrell on the show. We've talked about it a bunch of times. People, it's expected that turnout's going to be very low for the primary. If you want to get past that, you've got to give people a reason and a way to see themselves in the future that you're creating. If you're creating and only talking to people who you know are going to vote for you, I'm not saying that you don't talk to those people, but if you have to create a vision where people who are under 40, which is the most of our audience, under 40,
I'm just saying, if you run
can feel that they're a part of.
If you running for mayor of Detroit and I ain't seen you in no buffs, you couldn't tell me one Blade Icewood song, and you couldn't tell me your favorite Coney, and you ain't never ate a corned beef egg roll. If you're a vegan, I excuse you. But if you can't do none of those things, right? How many aunties you got that get the A plan from Ford? Tell me right now. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, connect with me on a level that I can understand. Connect with, and I'm saying me as like typical average potential Detroit voter. Connect with me on that level, and then we could talk about the more highfalutin issues.
Do I need to email all the campaign's press people and request their barbecue recipes?
Or at least, you know, a mac and cheese recipe.
A recipe, not a recipe. I need a recipe from every Detroit candidate.
Yeah, and then we put them together and we taste test them all.
That is a challenge, and I know some of you are listening.
Yep.
dailydetroit@gmail.com.
I issue a challenge, because if it's nasty, I'm going to say it too.
Norris Howard, I appreciate you.
I always appreciate you too, my friend.
I hope that you enjoyed this little diversion of an episode of your Daily Detroit. Feedback, as always, dailydetroit@gmail.com. Would love to hear what you think around all of this. Tomorrow, Devin O'Reilly will be joining me talking about all the new and wonderful things that have been popping up. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, but I figured, Norris, you and I, it was a timely diversion.
Absolutely, man, and it was a fun conversation, and I hope some people are listening, because there's still time
for mac and cheese.
That's right.
Well, with that, I'm Jer Stays. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much to our members on Patreon, patreon.com/Daily Detroit. Local media needs local support to survive. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit. Talk tomorrow.